folks. I can see so much activity in the chat again. That is awesome. I know you haven't missed anything, but basically, I've been rambling on for the past, 3 hours now? You all have missed nothing. Awesome, folks. So let's continue. Is there anyone who has, lost track, wants help catching up, or ask questions? No. So I was supposed to do the part one yesterday, but I wasn't feeling that well yesterday. So I was like, you know what, I'll do it today. The thing is, it's a fairly tight schedule, right? So I took the slot I had. So I was like, you know what, I'll just do a 6 hour stream. People are used to me rambling. So just today, and then I think tomorrow also we do not have IoT. So tomorrow I think we have low code and no code. So I'll be kind of like integrating it with the stream. So it's like another way to quickly spin up projects. But hi Tenden. So what we're doing is we're basically trying to build a boilerplate project for IoT. So I know a lot of hackers come to me and to say it's very very intimidating, right? Which is fine. It's not something you see a lot that happens. So we're trying to make a boilerplate code that helps you understand how simple sensor data can be sent to a database and how you can access that database and pull it onto a front end page. So it makes you realize that it's basically a normal tech stack with a little bit of electronics on the side. So we covered some electronics very, very overly. So if you all don't understand some part of it, it's perfectly fine. You can't possibly understand it in all one go anyway, right? So if you have questions, we can keep going over them as we go, right? And what we're now today doing is we have set up a 5 ways project and we have started understanding the Arduino code. We'll finish our Arduino code and then we'll create our React app, and yeah, we'll push data from both the ends into Firebase, and the next session we'll pull it from both the ends and brainstorm a proper project. Yeah, no, me neither. I cannot do this if it's not streaming because I'm constantly thinking, right? You do not realize the amount of adrenaline that you feel when you're sitting here because I'm like switching between windows and tabs and screens. It's not that, it's not like I'm not just sitting. So works most of the time. So folks, are we ready to get started? Yeah, so let me quickly go back to sharing my ESP32 screen, right? So share screen, new ESP32 project. And what we're going to do is now we're going to start adding the Firebase part, right? So there are 2 ways to go about it, right? So I'll quickly explain the entire code and we'll add a little bit of code like on the new project first, and then I'll send you a template because you can't add the code directly. The reason being there are libraries that need to be installed, and there's a lot of libraries that need to be installed. So let me quickly pull up that page for me, and we should be good to go. Okay. So there's not much library to install either. So I think we can just directly go for it. What do you suggest? Yeah, let's just go for it, right? So I'm gonna quickly start adding code. So let's start by adding a library, right? So let's go here and let's go into our library manager and a diagram.json, right? So we do not want this LED anymore. So I'm just gonna delete it, right? And I'm gonna go into my sketch. I know I'm just gonna delete anything in my world loop and do the same for my serial the setup. Alright, I'll just add everything from scratch. Alright, so just watch project name Firebase GHW March. Okay, so public. I'll share this exact template with you all as soon as I'm done, so you all can just go ahead and make copies after this. Okay? So library manager, right? So can you all see my screen? You all can't see my screen. So what happens in StreamYard is once I share, it pops up on my screen, but I have to click again to share it on the screen. So I always forget to do that. But thank you so much for reminding. Awesome. So I was going to show you some things, right? So I've created a public project, right? And you can see that this is where you land on when you initially come. This is your diagram.json. And what I did was I removed all the code from setup and loop, and I deleted the LED. So now I have a simple ESP32 and an empty code running. All right. Now what I'm going to do is now I'm going to start adding. First I'll add my library, and then I'll start adding code as we go. Right. So whatever code is a boilerplate, like it comes from the library itself, I'll copy paste it into the chat. If you all don't want to do it, that's fine. I'll send you once the entire code is ready. I'll send the entire template to you all. You all can just make copies of it. But make sure you understand it, right? That's the whole point of making a boilerplate code. That it's the very basic code and you understand it so well that you can scale it however you want, right? So let's go back here and let's start, right? So I'm going to first include, so library manager, click here, and you're going to search for Firebase, right? So you'll see a lot of libraries pop up. So all of these libraries, I think except 32, are from the same person, right? So if you know, like install all of them, they won't have conflicts. So that's not something you should be worried about. But we only need one library. All right. So we're going to go for the Firebase ESP32 library. That is it. I go to libraries.txt, click here and hit save. That is all you need to do. All right. Once you do that, that means your library has been added, right? Now I'm going to go ahead and click on void setup and click niche. I'm going to create some space here, and I'm going to start including some basic libraries, right, that I'll be using. So I'll start with something very simple, right? First, I want to connect to the internet. So I'm going to add include Wi-Fi. When that happens, and I want just Wi-Fi.h. So I'm gonna so Wi-Fi.h. There you go. All right, that's my first library. Then I'm gonna include the library that I just included. Right, so include Firebase ESP32 .h. Right, so that's my next code. Go ahead, add a hash here. Hash this, and we're good to go. Right. So first I've added my libraries. That is so cool, Samya. I would love to know more about your project. And hi, Shivati. Welcome back to the stream. I know, right? The library recently got. So what happened was the person who made the library, did it for fun, and then everyone was using it so much. Google actually, I think, funded it, which is very cool. So he actually wrote down a lot of documentation. Initially, his documentation was it works. Not literally, but basically, it was like, I don't work with this. Very cool guy though. Anyway, let's move on. So we have our two libraries added. Next, we want to include a token generator, right? So there's a library that specially does that. It handles that for us. I'm going to go ahead here, enter token helper, right? Next, we want to define our Wi-Fi credentials, right? So this is what you want to add to your Wi-Fi credentials. So understand and observe, right? I am adding everything before even the void setup. Basically, this is like any of your code, right? Any other script. All of this is global, right? So this will be globally defined. All right. I know, right? Very cool indeed. All right. So we have our Wi-Fi credentials. Now this is exactly what you want to put because you all are using the simulator, right? If this is you have a controller, then you'll put your own SSID and password. But because this is a simulator, you'll be using this, right? Next, we're going to define the API key, right? So I'm going to go ahead, copy, and API key, right? So we're defining all of this globally so that we can later use the variable itself, or rather the macro itself, right? So let's go database URL, which is our real RTDB URL, and then we're going to define the email and password, right? So define user email and define the password. So There we go. And it's so nice, it's filling up everything for us. I like that so much. Okay, I'm gonna remove this. Alright, perfect. So now we have our basic setup done. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually use this library, right? So we're gonna create an object of this library and actually use it. Okay. Folks are not paying that much attention to the chat. So if you all have questions, wait for a second. I'll definitely get back to it. All right. For fun. So let's continue. Let's create an object of what we want to. So Firebase data. Let me quickly just bring this here. What just happened? Ah. Is my screen visible to y'all? I just lost my screen. Give me 1 second. Perfect. All right. So I'm gonna do. Is my screen still visible to you all? Okay, cool. Just the SP32 page, that's fine. Perfect, right? So we're going to do Firebase data and we can name this object, right? Now the default in the examples is FVDO, which I would ideally stick to because we're doing it for the first time. And then once you're comfortable with using the object around in the code, you can always create your own name, right? So Firebase data object sounds like a very logical name, right? So I'm going to go T down, then I'm going to Firebase. And then we're going to use auth. We're going to create an authentication object, right? So auth, there we go. Cool. And then we're going to create a config object. So Firebase config. Again, the names that I'm creating after this is of course something you can create yourself. But I'm sticking to the one that the example does just for the sake of simplicity, right? Because not just simplicity, but like debugging, making debugging easier. Later, we'll play around with the code and make it much easier, right? Now, this is something that you can add or you don't want to add based, it depends on your choice, but this is something from the example. Basically, it's his way of making sure that he's counting the number of wait times to calculate the error. All right. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to remove this line as well. And I'm going to go ahead and click on first add the serial dot begin. And this auto completes, which is awesome. Then I'm going to do a Wi-Fi dot begin. Right. Now I can make it an error producing code as well, as in if it's not connecting, it will give me an error. But I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to keep it simple, right? Because I don't want to confuse you all with a lot of things. So I'm going to use the macros that we created earlier. So everything is caps, Wi-Fi, ID, comma, Wi-Fi, password. There you go, right? So we're going to do that. Great. So now there's an entire way to check whether you're connected to or not connected to the Wi-Fi, and really not necessary right now, because if it doesn't connect, we'll just serial print something to check. There is a while loop that you all can create, but I don't want to confuse with a lot of code. All right. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the library functions, right, which are already defined in the API, right? And I'm going to make this bigger for you all. This smaller here. There we go. So I'm just going to quickly go to the library page and pick up the functions that I need from the example, right? So let's do that. So I'm going to go for config. I'm going and picking this entire configuration thing from the example, all right? You all can write your own code, or you all can just take what I'm doing and add it as a template. So I just picked this entire thing from the example. Basically, what it's doing is assigning all the macros to the things that we created earlier, right? We're basically using all the macros into the objects. So we created the config object, auth object. Now we're using the macros to fill in the right object variables, right? So we're gonna go below and we're gonna do a firebase dot begin with the objects that we created, right? So let me quickly copy and there we go. Again, this is picked up from the documentation itself, the example itself. There's really no brainer here, right? I'm doing nothing here. Awesome. And we're gonna try and reconnect to the Wi-Fi and end our setup loop, right? So that way it makes our life easier. There we go. At this point, we basically reconfigure Wi-Fi. All right, perfect. Let's move on. And now what we're going to do is we are going to actually start writing our loop code, which is basically if we're going to check if Firebase is ready and update a lot of code, right? So I'm going to copy the entire chunk of that part of code and then explain it to you as we go, right? So this is so the reason why I'm taking the entire thing is it does a lot of error checking for it, right? So I'm just going to quickly pick up the chunk and paste it. Alright, so this is the entire chunk. So this is why I copied the entire thing is it's doing a lot of check right here. You see this part of the code? It is checking and then it's also sending the error reason right away. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is, this is an entire code. So let's just go through what we've done in the loop, right? What we're doing is we're checking if Firebase is ready, right? That's a function that we're calling. We are counting. Why is this? Why does this exist? This is to check errors and this is for timeouts, right? Okay, stop trying now. It's been a long time. Basically telling the code that, okay, this is not working. So what we're going to do here is we're first sending. So this is the function I was looking for earlier, by the way. When I was asking for milli delay, it's millis. And we'll try that again in the ESP32 blinking, right? So what we're doing is we're first printing this set bool, and what we're doing is then we're setting the objects variable set bool to this value, right? The test bool, and then we're setting the path, right? We're setting the path. What path is this? So if you go into Firebase, right? Let's go back to our RTDB, right? So let me show you my RTDB. So let's say I went here. Where's my RTDB? Let's go here. So RTDB, and if you see here, this is basically your path. So I can go here and add, let's say, a value. So let's say I add a test slash bool, right? And this is my value, let's say 0. And over here I can also change it to boolean, right? So let's say this boolean. So how do you add a boolean? Let's see. Alright, basically this is our value, right? So let's say I change this to object or other string, right? So let's make, and I can add a header, right? And this I can make a string. Okay. So there we go. And there we go. It added, right? And this is something. So if I wanted to reference this, right, how would I go about it? I would take my database URL. I would add basically this is my entire path, right? So this slash test slash string. So this path is telling the code where to exactly add the new value that we're sending, right? So there we go. And this is our path. Then we're doing count divided, not divided by 2. What are we doing? We're doing the remainder, right? So whatever the remainder is here, you get. If it's 0, then you're sending an OK, right? If not, then you're sending an error. Make sense? So if this, then do this. All right. Next, what we're doing is we are again setting the bool, right? We will again use the path. So first we did was we found the path. After that, we're actually setting it, right? We're saying bool, and then again if we're checking if it's true or false, right? So what we did was we first wrote the boolean. Now we're going back to that same path and we're checking if the boolean exists or not. If it doesn't exist, we're sending an error. If it does exist, we're not sending an error. Makes sense, right? So we're literally doing the same thing. So if you check, everything is happening at least twice. What we're doing is we're first checking, we're first putting it and then we're checking if it exists or not. Make sense? Everyone? Everyone on the same page? Is anyone following along still? Don't worry, I just copied a chunk of good code from the example itself. But what we basically did, I'm happy to walk you through this, right? It's very simple what we've done. What we're doing is we basically took all the configuration code, right? I still need to fill these things up, right? So that's what we'll do. And once we do that, what we've done is we've taken this from the example. What we're doing is we're basically first checking if the boolean is we're first putting the boolean, and in the next one we're checking if the boolean is correct. If these match up, then we are again getting a boolean and we're saving it, and then we're incrementing it over time. All right. It's a very simple thing. We're doing this for all data types. What we're doing is we're setting, then we're getting it back, reading it, and checking if we got the right boolean float double string, right? Throughout the entire thing, right? And if all of this goes correct, then we create a JSON out of it, and then we write the entire JSON, and we're also printing stuff to check whether everything is okay or not. All right, it's very simple. You do not have to worry about it. What I do want to do is I want to run this once, right? So what is important here is this part. What do you put where, right? So I'm going to go ahead and share my Firebase, right? So I'm going to share this tab, and this is basically my database URL. So I'm going to go ahead and copy. So you can just click here, copy reference URL. Then I'm going to go here and I'm going to add my database URL. So this is my database URL. Remember, the path will start from here. Okay. Next, I'm going back to my Firebase. I'm going to project settings, and I'm going to my API key that I'm very afraid of of exposing. Right? So I'm going to go ahead, copy my API key, go here, paste it. Right? This is done. Now this is the user email that I created earlier. Right? Remember when we did authentication? So it's fancy works. Password, I think I remember is user. I do not remember. Let's see. I mean, I'm hoping that's the right password. I'm going to delete the account anyway, and I just recreate it. So, add user. And I'm going to go ahead and do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 user. Right? So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm hoping I set it right here. Share this tab and set. Right. So, this is all set. So, now ideally, right? Again, ideally, yes, you can. I'm pretty sure you can. Let's check. So, yeah, let's go. Well, I can't see it here, but I'm sure you can. Let me check and get back to you. Right? I'm pretty sure you can simulate it. I know there is a tool on Arduino IDE. So if you copy this and you select the right board, it will tell you the percentage of the thing that it's taking. But otherwise, not sure. Do you want me to slow down this tag? I'm happy to slow down and make sure you'll follow. It's okay. I'll be sending you this template right away, right? I'm just gonna quickly save it, run it. Hopefully it runs. If it doesn't run, I'll send you the version that is running. Okay. So I just want to make sure that this runs. Okay. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make this big, and I'm gonna share my window instead. Present, share screen, window. Okay, perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to also open my Firebase in the same thing. And open the project so that we can see if it actually works or not, right? So I'm going to go into my RTDB and I'm going to delete this, right? So I'm going to delete this. There we go. Perfect. So now I'm going to go here and I'm going to run this and see if it works. And I'm going to hope that the authentication was saved. It was saved. So I'm going to go back to my RTDB. It's just starting the simulation. It can be a little slow with so much code in it, but it's basic code. You're right? So it's like there's nothing too complicated about it. So whenever it does run, mine, not sharing my screen again. This sucks. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on start simulation. And it's probably my browser. Did I just lose everything? Great. Cool. So I have to set all the API keys again. But what I'm gonna do is before that I'm gonna share this with y'all. So copy. Y'all can start making copies of this and then we can debug together. But see, that's the thing. It's not just about the memory. It will that's not the exact memory it will take, right? Because once you convert it to hex file, it's going to be a little different. Because remember, finally, it's sending hex code to your or binary code to your actual controller. No worries, Nisari. Don't worry. Don't worry about the time ever. Okay, we will definitely catch up eventually. So if you have questions or if you want me to go slow or repeat something, just go for it. Okay. So I've shared the link with you, right? I did paste the link. No, I didn't paste the link. I did paste the link. Cool. Alright, so go to this thing and copy it, and until then, I'm gonna refill the all the credentials and see if it works. Right? So I'm gonna go here, copy. Alright, so if you all are trying this until then, let me know. It is a file separate library, but it also comes as a dependency of the original library. So I think it should be included. Hmm. My bad, my mistake. Close. This is my bad indeed. So this is data. Save. Folks, just look at the debugging that I'm doing because it's the same template that I've shared with y'all. So, so what happened was over here the data has to be a capital D. I had put a small d. But it's taking a very long time for my simulator to run. If anyone of y'all is able to run it, let me know. I'm happy to have you on stream and share your screen. I hope it runs for someone. If not, no one. Oh, I see. So the thing is, this code won't run for anyone is because we do need the Wi-Fi waiting. We need to wait for the Wi-Fi to connect. So we gotta wait. So I'm gonna quickly send you the code for what you need to put for my bad indeed, folks. Let me. Is anyone trying to run the simulator by any chance? So the I'm changing the main template itself. So if you all just keep refreshing the link that I've sent you, it should ideally just change it itself. Okay. I'm glad you're following for us. Let me know if you want me to repeat something. Okay. Okay, folks. Let me know if you're getting stuck anywhere. Yeah, that's happening for me too. Just give it a minute or something. It will hopefully run. It's just started running for me. I even saw it on the screen right now. So give it a minute. Let's be a little patient. If it runs, it's gonna be great. So it's gonna take a couple of minutes because the last simulation for me also took a little bit of time to run, and it takes a couple of failed attempts for it to finally actually connect. Let's give it a minute. Invalid password. This is my bad. Okay, so you need just make sure you put the correct password here. This should work. Ah, I get it. What's wrong? There we go. This should run. Is this simulation run for anyone? It's okay. Just keep trying again. It will definitely work because we've added just one library and it's working for me. So it'll definitely work for you at some point. Just keep at it. If uh, was it capital U? I'm pretty sure it wasn't because I usually don't complicate it. I don't complicate passwords that I'm sharing on screen. If it was, we'll check. Let it throw another error and I'll check again. But the another project of mine is running, so I can if that's the problem, that's not a problem. Like I'll show you the running project, so we'll see. I mean, worst case, I can just go and reset the password too. So Yeah, see, this thing's loading, right? That means my internet's being a little weird. So that's probably why this thing's also taking so much time. Wow, this just hung up on me. Great. Never mind. I'll delete it again if that does not work. Assuming it ever works today. Alright, this is taking a bit long, so I'm going to let this run. What I will do though is instead I'll show you the project that runs for me, right? I'm going to open Walkway. Okay, the code is exactly the same, so it's not like if yours will be any different, okay? Because I literally uh, made the same thing. Alright, so this is the code that runs for me. This is a different project of mine, the one that I won't be deleting hopefully. So let's see. I'm gonna give it another minute to run. I think you know what. There we go. It's running. Now, if it tells me wrong password, I will, of course, put a capital U. But oh, there we go. It's running. It's running. It's running. Yay, folks! It's running. So I'm gonna go into my real-time database. So yeah, you just need to give it a minute to kind of run. There you go. And as it's setting integer, so it's set, then it got it, and then it got the bool reference, which is all correct. So now you can see it's gonna keep popping up here as it updates. Yay, our simulator runs. It takes a little time to get started, but the point is you don't need a microcontroller. So there we go. So now it's gonna keep updating real time here. Yay, indeed. Right, so now we've got a hello world in our database, which is great. Awesome, folks. The point is the simulator runs, which is a huge relief to me because I've been trying a lot of simulators the past few streams when I've done to make sure that you all can follow along, uh, virtually, but it's been a nightmare. So this finally worked and it took me a bit to, like get there. But basically following the example. So the link that you have does work, right? It has my credentials. So please do not use it. I'll anyway be deleting the project right after this. But yeah, let's leave this at this, and I'm gonna now close this. Stop. Perfect. Now what we're gonna do is so if you're thinking right to the if your microcontroller can write to the RTDB, it's the same thing for your cloud Firestore, which is what we'll be using, right? So we'll be using Firestore eventually. You just need to change your database URL to your project name, and you use this, right? We'll do it in the next when we're building the entire project, right? When we start to connect everything, we'll do it. So don't worry about it. The point is, if this code runs and you all have this code, you all can start playing around with it, right? Now start experimenting with, what if the data is coming every 5 seconds? Do you want to keep the Firebase connection open? But if it's coming at every 5 seconds, do you want to re-authenticate Firebase? We'll be thinking on these lines once we start building the entire thing. But awesome, let's quickly move on to our Create React app. Yeah, so I'm gonna close this, okay, and I'm gonna share my VS Code. Yeah, so share screen. That's where's VS Code window. Oh my god, where's the window? Cancel VS Code. New VS Code. Hey, there you go. This is my VS Code, okay? What I want you all to do is start a new terminal, right? Make sure you're in the right directory where you want to create the project. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do mkdir chw merge, right? So there we go. Then I'm going to do a cp chw merge, right? I'm going to do an ls to make sure it's empty. It is empty. Now here what I'm going to do is I'm going to run an npm create react app, in case you all haven't followed this earlier, right? Right? So, oh sorry, npm install KTF app, folks, my bad. Install KTF app, right? So, if you all have already done this, great. If not, it's okay. You can follow along as we go. So, I already have it, so it's telling me it's up to date, right? So, great. In case you all don't have it, how do you check for if you have Node installed? You just do an npm. I think it's a dash dash. It's a dash. So we're good. So I have 9.3.1. Then I did an npm install create react app. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to do an npx, right? Create react app, and then I'm going to name the app, right? So this is the name of the application that I'm making, in the name of the react app, right? Basically your folder name. So what I'm going to put, I'm going to put chw March. I'm going to put a hyphen there for clarity. March, right? App. And it's going to take a minute to create it, right? All right, folks. Anyone following along still? Anyone lost a little? Do you want me to slow down? Okay, so it's going to create the Create React app, basically the React app, and following. Awesome. Thank you, Firas, for confirming. So create this. It's exactly been around 40 minutes since we started this stream. So I'm going to give you all another 5-minute breather. And once we come back, we're going to go all the way through to completing. I'm glad you're following along again, Nisarg. So I'm sure you all are much better web developers than me. I have no doubt about that. So what we're going to do in this is basically we're going to look at the structure of the application. I'm sure if I'm, if you want to explain it better, you're again welcome on the stream. But yeah, so we're going to look at the structure and we're going to change the structure and add some Firebase commands. Yeah. Sounds simple, sounds fun. Awesome. And what I'll do is finally, before the third session, I'll send you a GitHub link in which I'll put snapshots of everything that we did on the way along with explanation. So you all can, keep that repo as a reference. Awesome. Great. So let's take a quick 5-minute breather and then we'll go all the way through to reading and pushing data from your React app to Firebase. It's very simple. It is very intuitive. So you'll be fine. All of you all will be great. Okay. So I'll be back in 5. let's continue. Are we good to go? Is everyone on the same page? Has everyone created their React app? Do you want me to go slower? Do you want me to go faster? Is everything going great? Perfect. Faraz has created his React app. That is awesome. We'll just in a minute open it and go through the structure, okay? Awesome. So I'm going to continue now since no one else is replying. I'm going to do a cd March. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to home file. I'm going to do an add folder to space, and I'm going to do March, and I'm going to add it. And I do trust the authors. So I'm going to, once it's added, I'll be able to see my entire structure here. Alright, so I'm already there in the folder where I'm supposed to be running this, and I have my entire structure here. So these are the node modules. This is my public folder, which is where you can see all my logos are. And yeah, this is my source folder, which is the most important folder, right? This is our app.js and this is our index.js. This is where the rendering is happening, and in the rendering, we're rendering the app. So this code is basically being rendered, right? And then we have our CSS files, which we're not concerned about. We're not concerned about the UI at all today. Neither are we concerned about the testing. So our only things that we're going to play with is index.js and app.js is what we won't be using anymore from this point on. Alright, we do not need to be worried about anything else. What I would want you all to look at is the index.html where the main rendering and everything is happening. So this is the root ID. This is where the root is being called from, right? And this is where your entire React app starts, right? Perfect. So we're going to go back to our index.js and we're going to stay here, right? What I am going to do here though is I'm going to be adding a couple of files. Okay, I'm going to be adding a couple of files, but before that, let's have a look at what our web page looks like, right? So I'm going to do an npm start, and it's going to start my server for me. Awesome, Rati's also following along. That's awesome. Great. So now we're going to click on npm start, and it should start running our server. Also, mine might cause an error because I'm running two servers. So I'm going to stop running one, and hopefully then this one will run. We can run it on another port actually, but I'm going to go for no. And we're going to do an npm start again. Awesome. So when we do an npm start, it's going to open the port, and I don't know if you all can see the screen. You probably can't. I'm going to quickly show you what it looks like. So go here, stop screen, present, share screen, and I'm going to go to window, and this is what my app looks like. Right? So when you start npm, this is what your normal create React.js, like this is your basic template app, right? Now there are other templates available as well. So if you all look for it, you can actually, when in the terminal when we did that. So we're going to make changes here, but right now we won't be looking at this for another 5-10 minutes. So I'm going to stop sharing this and then only share my VS Code. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing, present, share screen, window, VS Code. And I hope I'm sharing the right one. Yep, the right one. Right? So this is our screen. Cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually open a split terminal, right? So that it's basically the same terminal as here, but you can see the path is not there, right? So I'm going to go into the right path here. So cd, chw, do an ls. I don't think that's the folder I'm in, so I'm going to go back here and check the path. So it's GHW mash, it is correct. Perfect. So GHW mash, and I'm going to do cd, GHW mash again. Alright, and now I'm in the right folder. Cool. So what I'm going to next run is my Firebase installation command. Now you all remember when we were setting up a Firebase project and we did the web app configuration, it told us to first install Firebase. We're going to do exactly that. So let me quickly share the command for you. Let me share that with you in a second. Give me just one second. So it's a very simple command. The reason I'm sending a very specific command is, again, because this is not my area of expertise, right? So I followed something and I will follow it right to the point of the versions that I'm using, especially things like Firebase version, right? Yes, you're right for us. That is it. But the reason I'm going to use a very specific version is I do not take risks when it comes to versions, especially if I'm doing something for the first time, right? And while I'm not doing this for the first time, I don't play around with React much. Usually, if I'm working in a hackathon team, I only take care of the IoT part, right? But this is something that we're doing for a boilerplate point of view. So I'm going to go here and you can see this command. It's 8.3.1 and there's a save. Basically, save this, log this version is what we're doing, right? So that's exactly what I'm going to do, right? So I'm copying this and pasting this for you all. So like I said, I'm fairly paranoid when it comes to doing anything that I'm not very comfortable. I've not done that before, right? So, right. So this is the thing. Alright. So now it's installing Firebase for me, and until then, I'm just gonna go to my Firebase console and get my configuration ready, right? So, oh my god, I lost you all. Alright, folks, following along, right? So now it's installing Firebase for me, which is great. I'm gonna wait, and I'm gonna keep my configuration ready. Alright, and we're gonna start creating our Firebase files as soon as our installation is done. Alright, so let me give me a heads up when you all are done installing your Firebase in your project. Awesome, this is done installing. Well, mine's taking a little time, so we're gonna have to wait for mine to finish at least. But yeah, if anyone else is still doing it, let me know. Hi, Flame Bows. So what we're doing is we're making a boilerplate project to connect IoT projects to anything, right? Anything in the sense, you're basically creating a React app and we're connecting it to a database, and there'll be an entire streamlined basic project, boilerplate project, which you can scale later to, implement any idea you want. I hope I answered your question. Awesome. Faraz is done as well. That's awesome. Alvin, Rati, are you all still following along? Do you all want me to wait for you all? I'm not sure when Shellstock left. But that's okay. Alright. So, awesome. My Firebase is also installed. I won't be touching the versions or anything, Abhi. Alright. So now let's go and go to your source folder right here, and I'm going to do a right click and I'm going to go on a new file. I'm going to call it firebase.js, right? Now what I'm going to do is, because I am again paranoid when it comes to naming, I'm going to do a initialization. So I usually add an INI. Now this is completely optional. You all don't have to do it. Just make sure that whatever your name is, that is what you return. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and add my configuration code, your initialization code basically, right? So this is your initialization code. So let's see. So import Firebase from Firebase, simple, Z, right? Import Firebase from Firebase, and I'm going to create a variable, right? So variable, and then I'm going to call it Firebase config, right? Like we did initially in our Arduino app as well, right? So config, right? And then I'm going to do an equal to and add it. Same page, everyone? Oh, Alvin is just watching. Alright, no worries, Alvin. Alright, so this is what I've done, Abhi, and what I'm going to do is now I'm going to complete the configuration right here. Okay, so I'm going to do here. Colon, right? And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to first develop the basic structure, right? The exact configuration I can add later, right? So I'm going to do a firebase.initialize app. So firebase dot initialize app. Simple. There's a lot of autocomplete that's happening, and I'm going to add my Firebase variable that I've created, the config variable that I've created, and end it there. Right? Simple. Now I'm going to create a variable. So let's call it variable db. This is a very standard variable that name that you use when you're doing this. And I'm going to do Firebase dot. I'm going to use a Firestore here. All right. So I'll add a Firestore right here. There we go. This is our main structure, and then I'm going to export it, right? As usual, export DB. And what am I doing wrong here? I think I need to add a default, right? So there we go. Right. So this is my Firebase configuration structure. What I'm going to add here is my entire Firebase configuration. So remember when we looked at the project settings, there was an entire chunk of data. We're going to copy most of it, right? So I'm going to share my screen to that. Present, share screen, demo, demo, share. Right, I'm going to go here again in project settings. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to copy a chunk of this, right? This is basically my entire thing. I'm going to copy all of this, right, until project ID. Copy the entire thing. Go back to my actually, I want to copy the entire thing all together. Let's just copy the entire thing. Copy and go back to my VS Code and copy paste the entire thing. Right now, you don't need all of it, but it's good because that's the format to keep all of it. Right. Tab, tab. Okay, where have is everyone on the same page? Right. So this chunk of data that you see is what I copied. All right. This entire chunk of data. Cool. So I'm gonna now start sharing my VS Code again. So stop screen, present, share screen, window, share. Right. So this is the thing. I copied entire thing here, and I'm gonna click save. Right. So my entire object now for configuration has been created. Alright folks, so this is a simple step that you all can follow, right? Firebase initialization and the entire thing. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file, right? Which is my Firestore. Store.js. Alright, sounds fair. Here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add code to actually write to my Firestore here, right? So I'm going to create a lot of variables. I'm going to create some states, and I'm actually going to write to my Firestore here. So I'm going to be adding a chunk of code here. Alright. Now don't worry if you want any piece of code that I just posted or showed. You just ask for it. I'll put it in the chat. Okay. So let's continue. So I'm going to first go ahead and import my database from firebase.ini. So I'm going to do import db from firebase.ini. Then right, enter. Right. Then I'm going to import use state. So simple enough, right? So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my actual object that I'm gonna, export. So basically my form from where I'm gonna push data into the entire database, which is my Firebase database, right? So I'm gonna go and I'm actually gonna send you the data entirely from here, this point, because I have it ready for everyone, right? And then I'll explain it to you as we go, right? So there we go, and there we go. Cool. So this is my entire chunk of data, that chunk of code that I'm using, right? And I have it ready for you all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a CTRL all, see, and actually put it in chat for you all. Okay, I don't think I can send so much data at once. I'm going to split it up for you all and send it in a little bit. So I'm going to do this. That's half of the code, and the rest of it, what we're returning is this, right? So copy. I don't know, it won't let me send the entire thing, so I'm not sure how I can share it with you all right away. But let me know if you all need the code. Okay, I'm just gonna explain the code as we go. Right, so what we're doing over here is we're doing a lot of things, right? So first, for where are we? Right, first let's look at the form, right? So what we're doing for the form is we have a return, which is basically what's being returned to the page, right? We have our HTML tag division and we're centering. Then we have our form style, which is margin 200x. Then we have on submit, which is an event. So this is basically our use state that we're doing over here. And we're creating an event and a sub event, right? We have input type text. We have a placeholder text, which is actuator type, right? This is just randomly what I've given. Then we have input type number and the actuator value. Then we have an on change, which is basically when there's a change detected in the state. That is why I told you we're using use state. When there's a change detected, what it's going to do is it's going to change the value of the target value that we are at. Okay. Then we have a button to submit, and that is what is causing the state to change. All right. Before that, we have our entire data reference, and then we have our constant firestore. So what I'm going to do very quickly is I'm going to show you all how. You want me to create a quick gist? I'll do that. Let me create a quick gist for you all. Until then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you all how it's going to come in the Firebase, right? So let's go here. Let's go to Firestore. Firestore, right? So over here, whatever we're sending is the data, right? So it's going to start a collection. It's going to create another division here and then send the data here. Now you can have as many references as possible. Give me one quick minute. I will quickly create your gist. Let me quickly create a GitHub just for y'all. So I'm gonna go to my personal browser and do that for you. Create gist. Folks, give me 1 minute. I'm almost done creating your gists. Give me 1 second. I'm just setting the gist for y'all. Weird. There's something not working here, but that's okay. I'm just gonna send you all the default data for it. Okay. I'll see, and let me send you the gist. That's almost done being created. All right, I'm sending you all the link to the gist. Thank you, Fazan, for sending. But I've also created a gist, so let me send that as well. There you go. Alright, folks. Ready? So this is what I was going to show you. So this is where your data is going to come. So you're going to first get a start collection here, and you're going to keep getting data as you keep forming parts here, right? Alright, so that's the basic of it. Alright, so I'm going to quickly go into my React app and show you how to change your importing, right? Or how to change your rendering, right? Remember last time we rendered, we were rendering the logo that was basically going around, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go here, save this, of course, right? Once I save this, I'm going to go to my index.js. And over here, remember we're returning Firestore. What I'm going to do in my index.js, instead of app, right, I'm going to return my Firestore, right? And as soon as I click enter here, it will automatically import it also, right, in VS Code. If it doesn't, quickly just add this line to add the import. I do not know if you all can see my screen. I'm guessing not. So let me present my screen again. Share screen, window, right? So, nope, not this one. Stop screen, present, share screen. Alright, this is the right one. So I'm getting 1x, but this is the correct one. Alright, so you can see what I've done is I went to index.js. So over here, I had my index. Where's my Firestore? So my Firestore.js is basically returning me my default Firestore. And what I'm doing is in index.js, instead of rendering the app, I am rendering Firestore. Now, what I can also do is I can render both one by one, but what happens is it stacks up, and that's not a good way to go about it. Alright, so we're going to do a Firestore, save, and now when I go to my basically my screen, that my localhost right here, and I'm going to share my screen again. Right, so over here what I did was from firestore.js, my Firestore is being exported, and in index.js I've replaced app.js with Firestore. Alright. Right. So the thing is, even though that's the placeholder, I'm using default values that are already in React, like name, age, right? So I'm not making much changes. Correct. So you're gonna get three things, right? So now what I'm gonna do is I don't know if you all can still see my screen. So you can see that I've made these changes and it's currently generating me warnings, which is fine. Your thing is still gonna connect to your Firebase. I'm gonna stop sharing, and if you refresh your React app, you should be able to see this. Let me share screen, tab, React app. There you go. This is what you should be able to see, right? So now when I click, so now let's first look at my live demo, right? So it's empty here, right? If it works, I'll be able to see my data here. So let's go back to my React app. I'm going to put the actuator type. Let's say it's a motor. Then I'm going to put the actuator value. Let's say it's like 150 PWM, right? So 150 PWM. And let's say my task is, it's basically, something I just want to tell what am I doing. So I'm saying it's going right. So going right. There you go. Submit, it says data successfully submitted. And now I'll go back to my March live demo and share and refresh. There we go. We got the date, right? And I'm using default thing, that's why this hasn't changed, but you get the point, right? And I just realized I'm not sharing my screen again. Okay, sure. This was my React app. I put my motor, I put this, and I put going right. Now I can change this to basically, let's say it's a pump. I'm going to change this to 1500 for the sake of it. I'm going to make this going up, right? I'm going to do submit. It's saying data successfully submitted. And then when I go here, I share this tab. You can see that it has added 2 sets of data. Cancel, cancel. So it's added 2 sets of data. This is the latest one. And the latest one always comes on top, right? So it comes on top. Sounds fair, everyone? So this is basically you connecting and writing to your React app. Simple, right? Simple. So now you have a database that is connected to your front-end React app, and you have a database that is connected to your Arduino code. Did anyone run the Arduino code later? Did it work for you all? Did you put the user credentials and everything? Did it work for you all? Anyone? Nisarg, Alvin, Faraz? Awesome. So Faraz ran it, and did it work for you, Faraz? Awesome. That's great. And Faraz, is the React app working for you too? Because if it is, great. What error are you getting, Nisarg? Uh, what you've added the SP32, right? And you do not have anything else added, right? No LED, nothing on your simulator, right? So connection lost. Okay, I see your error now. I got that error a lot of times. It's probably because you do not have very stable internet. Alright, so you probably don't have stable internet, or your password, user email or and password is wrong, right? Because it's saying connection lost, right? It's not saying that it couldn't authenticate or nothing. I got that error multiple times for my work, the first version, okay, back when I was, trying to make sure it's ready for you all. So, done it a few times. I'm pretty sure it's just the internet. If not, next stream, you can come share your screen and we'll sort it out together. All right. Awesome. And I always forget. Did I show you all this? Did I show you all how the data came? I hope I did. Because I'm always forgetting to share it after coming to StreamYard. I share it to StreamYard and then I forget to share it from there, that point on. Awesome. Great. So, okay, folks, that's a lot of things that you all have done. It's working, which is great. So, I'm hoping Nasar, at least your React app works. So, we'll figure out the simulator part because we won't be sending that data as it is anyway. That was just us connecting to Firebase. In the next session, we actually send specific sensor data and specific, conditional data. So, when something happens, only then data will go. So, you don't even have to keep listening to it all the time. Like the port does not have to be open all the time. Awesome, folks. Well, thank you so much for sticking with me for the past 6 hours now, which is awesome. Y'all are amazing. So, great. I will see y'all tomorrow with low code and no code solutions. It's going to be a fairly fun stream. We're going to be playing around with tools really. There's not much to do rather than just explore. So, we do that tomorrow. But you all have a great day ahead, and I know there are some pretty cool streams lined up for you all today. I hope you all have fun. If there are any questions, I'm happy to stick around. If not, we can close the stream because I am tired. I'm so glad you enjoyed it, Firas, and I'm so happy to see you follow along everything. If there's any question, even like later when you're exploring and playing around with what we did today, feel free to reach out. Okay, just create a ticket and don't tag me directly because that's against the server rules. But ask any other emulator; they'll get me to look at it. Okay, Alvin, I hope you follow along finally at everything, and I would like to see you complete it because I want to see you and Yash do hardware projects in case we end up in another in-person hackathon. You, Yash, and Nisarg, and Faraz if you ever turn up to an in-person hackathon. Awesome. I'm so glad you all learned something, right? Awesome. Perfect. So, folks, if there are no questions, I'm going to close the stream and I'll see you not bright and early tomorrow, early. I think I have a mini event. I think we have Bob Ross tomorrow in the morning. And then we have in the afternoon the low code stream, which is going to be so cool. So, I'll see you all. I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you're having fun with it. Awesome. So I will see you all tomorrow for Bob Ross and then low code. Bye, folks.